Hello and welcome to my screencast. Today I will show you a little bit about conditional formatting in Microsoft Excel 2010. The main question is, why do I need conditional formatting and where can I use it? The answer is very simple. You need the conditional formatting if you want to dynamically format cells depending on the content of a cell. For example, if a cell has a value below 50, it should be filled green. And if the value is above 50, then the cell should be filled red. And at 50 exactly, there should be no formatting at all. In the first part of this video, I will show you some samples of the conditional formatting. And in the second part, I show you how these samples are created. So let's jump right to part 1, samples of conditional formatting. Let's have a look at this worksheet. We have emissions of CO2 in a test area for every month of a year. And we want to emphasize certain aspects in every data row. Which months are above the maximum value? Which months are in a target range? In which months the yearly average emission is exceeded? What was the monthly maximum emission in a year? How is the emission distributed over the year? Without colors, this worksheet looks a little bit boring and is not that easy to read. Nicely said. So let's turn on the colors. Now, this is a lot nicer. When we look at the months above maximum, we do not really need to know at which value the maximum is. We see red fill cells and we instantly know in which months the CO2 emission is too high. If we change the maximum cell in N4, let's say to 3600, we see immediately the months affected. So this example shows us a high-low comparison. Before we proceed to the next example, let's reset the maximum value back to 4150. In the next example, we want to highlight if values are in a certain range. This range is defined in the cells O7 and P7. And we see that from May to July, the emissions were in the target range. Now we ask ourselves, which months are in the range if we set the upper bound value to 4300? So we set 3900 to 4300. And in an instant, we see the colored result. March to August are in the target range. So revert back the upper bound to 3900. In the next example, we just want to see in which months the emission was greater than the yearly average. We see that from January to March and from October till the end of the year, the pollution is above the average. Now let's change the July value to 4000. And we see that in the first 2 months, the last month of the year and the altered month are the ones where the emission is above the yearly average. So let's revert the July back to 2100 and we see once again January to March and October till December are the months affected. The next example is very simple. Just show the month with the highest emission, and it's January. To test if the conditional formatting is functioning properly, we change the August value to 6200. Yes! It's colored blue, so it's the maximum month. Now let's revert it to 2750 and we see that January is once again the month with the highest emission. In the last example on this sheet, we want to show the yearly distribution color graded. The lowest emission should be in yellow and the maximum emission should be with a red background. Here we not only see a maximum or minimum, with color grading we see the values how they are distributed from lowest to highest. We see start of the year is highest emission, then till the mid of the year it drops down and then again it rises. Now let's change the minimum value of July down to 1500. So July to 1500. And you see that more months than before are in the mid area. They are in an orange background. Now we set the value to 6000. And let's see what happens. We have a value that hits the roof and it's way higher than the other values. So only this cell is red and all others tend to the lowest value and are therefore colored more yellowish. In this example, the boundaries are the maximum and minimum value. If you add 100 to all values, there will be no change in the colors. Of course, you can adjust the conditional formatting that, for example, all values below 1000 will be yellow and all values above 4000 will be red. So a change in the values will be seen in different colors. This was the first page of the emissions samples. Let's head to the second page. As first example on the second page, we want to highlight the top 20% of the values. We have 12 months, so 20% of 12 are 2.4 months. Rounded down, these result in 2 values, exactly as we see. Be careful when using this kind of conditional formatting if you have 10 or 100 numbers. There is no difference in the top 10 numbers and the top 10%. As we speak of top 10, we head to the next example. We want to show the values of the 3 months with the lowest values. That is very similar to the previous example, so we look at the last emission example. This one is a little bit tricky. We want to show the highest value with a red background and a black font, the second and third with an orange background and a white font, and the fourth and the fifth with a yellow background and again a black font. To see that I haven't cheated, I will change the May value to, say, 3000. And you see, it changed. Reverted back to 2000 and you see it changed back to the previous state. This brings us to the end of the examples with simple cell formatting, and we head to the next kind of formatting. Here I have prepared examples with data bars. The values in all 4 graphs are the same and represent average monthly temperatures. In the first graph, the color bars are gradient filled and the full width of the cell is used. The 0 point is represented by a black dotted line. The second example is a little bit different. Here is the 0 value exactly in the middle of the cell. This results in a not fully used negative space. With solid bars and a darker color, the end of the bars are more visible than in the previous example. The next one shows all bars in the same direction. With this method, you can show negative values in a kinda way. The positive values are in a gradient green, but this time with a black border. So the size of the bars is better visible. In the last example, the data bars are mirrored on the y-axis. Additionally, I adjusted the upper and lower values that they do not touch the cell boundaries. As you see, you can easily show values in a way that the viewer has a different feeling about the numbers. As a temperature example, I will show you how you can influence the view of numbers. I formatted the first column as you have seen in the color-graded example. The point for the third color is exactly at the midpoint. In the middle column, I shifted the midpoint to the upper bound. So it looks like a little bit cooled down. Opposing, I shifted the midpoint in the last example to the lower value. And now it looks hotter than the first one. Now let's get back on the track and we head to icon sets. We use icon sets if you want to show numbers in an abstracted form. For these examples, we have the exam results of a course. From 0 to 49 the result is negative. From 50 to 59 is acceptable. And 60 and above is okay. In the leftmost column, we see the points and an icon representing the result. Green, okay. Yellow, acceptable. And red is negative. In the second example, we use a cross for failed and a check mark for passed. If the exact points are of no interest, we should leave them out, as I showed in the third example. Check for OK, cross for failed. You instantly see who passed, who failed. The two right examples show different icons representing the values. Please keep in mind that you have at maximum 5 icons to use. Now to something completely different. We want to format a cell depending on the uniqueness. We have a list of employees and want to see which city is visited only once and which city is visited more often. In column B I wrote the cities. The columns C and D are referencing to column B. You see that Salzburg and Linz are only visited once. So in column C, with the single visits, they are colored. In contrast, in the column D, the multiple visits are colored. Now, let us change Robinson in cell B2 from Graz to Linz. So from Graz to Linz. We see that only Salzburg has a single visit. Now we change it from Linz to Eisenstadt. And Eisenstadt is also marked as single visited. Maybe this seems of no use, but if you use it in combination with sorting by color, this can be a very useful tool. So this is the last example sheet. Finally, here we want to show the results of an experiment. The values in the right example are referenced to the left one. In the left example, we want to highlight the maximum points per person. This means the maximum per row. If we change Jones' result of experiment 2 from 77 to 99, it is instantly colored as the maximum. Okay, let's revert the change back to the originally 77. The task in the right example is to highlight the person who has the best result and to emphasize the maximum value. To achieve this, we have to use formulas for the conditional formatting. This is a little bit more challenging. To see if my formatting is correct, I will change the result of Taylor in E4 to 117 points. So Taylor from 104 to 117. And you see that no longer Williams is drawn in red, now it's Taylor as expected. This brings me to the end of the examples. And in the next part, we will create a conditional formatting of all examples from the scratch. We start with the task to color the values above the maximum in red and the values below in green. In all coming sheets I show you the result, how it has to look like, so we see what we want to achieve. The first step is to select the cells we want to format. So we select the range from B9 to M9. In the tab Home, we find the button for the conditional formatting. So left-clicking on the button, a submenu opens. Here we have a lot of predefined styles, but in this video I won't use them. I will show you how to build them from scratch. So I choose Manage Rules. And this opens the Conditional Formatting Manager. I will explain the Rules Manager in detail after we finish this example. Because we want to create a new rule, a click on New Rule is a good start. This dialog box shows us all choices we have for formatting. I won't explain to you now all bits and pieces in detail. Working out the examples will cover a great many of the possibilities. First, we will define the formatting for the values above the maximum. This means that each month has to be compared to the maximum value. When this value is greater than the maximum value in cell N9, the cell has to be formatted in red. So let's shift the dialog box a little bit up and we click on Format Only Cells That Contain. Then here we select Cell Value, just perfect. But we want greater than. And greater than what? Greater than the maximum in N9. Here it is important that the reference to the maximum is fixed with $signs. Now we only have to define the look of the cells if they are above the maximum. So we click on Format, then Fill, okay, it's selected. And which color? We take that one. Hitting OK and once again OK finishes the rule. But it isn't applied yet. We can apply the rule in two ways. Hitting OK, but then the Rules Manager will be closed and we have to reopen the Rules Manager again for the second rule. Another method is clicking Apply. This applies the rule and the Rules Manager stays open. So I click on Apply and you see here and here is a different formatting. It's differently shaded to the other cells. Now we define the second rule. All values equal and below the maximum value have to be green on green. Once again we create a new rule and once again we format only cells that contain. But now less than or equal to and compared once again with cell N9. Then we use Format to color the cells. First the font, hitting the Font tab, and color. No color fits our needs, so we choose more colors. Then on the Custom tab, we choose here green and set the value to 97. With OK, we leave the color, and now to the Fill tab. We want to fill the background. And now we choose more colors and once again Custom. And now we select the color with 198 for red, then 239 for green, and 206 for blue. OK ends the color selection, another OK, self-formatting, and the third OK closes the formatting rule dialog. Here we see both rules, and as finishing step I hit OK. Now I deselect the area, and we see the rules we created are perfect. Now let's test. Let's choose 4000 and make it to 5000. Okay, change it back with Ctrl Z, and it's once again 4000. Let's deselect. Okay, so we created our first conditional formatting example. Now let's head back to the Rules Manager. Conditional Formatting, Managing Rules, and here we are back again. But where are the rules we created? When we look at the top of the dialog box, we see that only the formatting rules for the current selection are shown. Because there is no formatting for this cell, we don't have a rule. When we click on that triangle to the right of current selection, a drop-down box opens, where we see a lot of entries. The second entry will show us all cell formattings for the current worksheet. The following entries are to show cell formattings in different worksheets. So we click on this worksheet and we see 4 rules. Why 4 rules? Well, 2 for the model we wanted to recreate, and the 2 other ones here, and here the 2 other ones for our own work. Now let's have a look at this area. First we see the type of the rule, then the formatting. How is the cell formatted? To which area does this rule apply to? And the very last column, stop if true, I will explain you in a later example. With the buttons above the rules, new rule, you create a rule, edit rule, you can alter a rule, and delete rule, well, of course, delete a rule. You can change a rule with clicking on the rule and edit rule, or simply double click on the rule. With the 2 arrows, you can rearrange the rules. Why? Other than Excel 2003, rules can be massively stacked, so the order can be of importance because the rules are proceeded from top to bottom. With clicking on Close, we now leave the manager and we are done with the first example. Now it's our task to color all values that are in the target range. As you may imagine, this will be very similar to our previous work. The first step is to select the cells we want to format. This is the range from B9 to M9. Now, conditional formatting, manage rules. And to create a new rule, we use the button New Rule. At first we shift up the dialog box a little bit, and now with Format only cells that contain, we ensure that cell value is selected and choose from the next drop-down box Between. To define the bounds, we click into the first text box and select the cell 09, and the upper bound is defined by P9. Once again, we define our own colors, format, and what will we define? First, the fill color. So more colors, custom, and the color we define, red will be 255, okay, then 235, and blue, let's make it to 156. Okay, okay, oops, the font color is not automatic, more colors, custom, well, 156, oops, 156 I said, 101 green, no, and no blue. Okay, okay, and last okay, and apply, and we see with okay and selecting a cell out of the marked area, we did the right thing. So easy was the second example. And the third one will be once more easier. We want that the values above the average are shown in a red font color. Now, what is our first step? Yes, selecting the cells where the formatting will apply. These are the cells from B9 to M9. As we already know, we open the Rules Manager with Conditional Formatting and Manage Rules, and creating a new rule with New Rule. Now the format only cells that contain doesn't fit anymore. We need another solution. 2 lines below we have a perfect fit. Format only values that are above or below average. Clicking on this line, we see that we have a different look in the lower part of the dialog as before. Clicking on the arrow right of above, we see that we not only can choose between above and below average, we also can select 1 or 2 or 3 standard deviations above or below. We stick to above, so we click on it. How do we want to format the cells? Well, with Format and Font, we choose the, we choose the red color second from the left. And to emphasize the importance, we use a bold font style. Now with OK, OK, and a third OK, our work is done. Let's click on a cell outside of the selected area for deselection, and the result is as expected. To be sure that it's correct, we change the June value from 1800 to 6000. And see that March, October and November is no longer above the average. You see, easy as I said. Now let's head to the maximum value. From now on, I won't explain anymore how to open the Rules Manager or how to select the font tabs. You have seen this in detail in the last examples, and I won't bore you. So we select the target range from B9 to M9, conditional formatting, manage rules, and new rule. Now the two already known types do not work to find the maximum. Therefore, we choose format only top or bottom ranked values. We can select the top or bottom ones, we stick to the top, and we want to show only one element. As you see, there is another checkbox. If I would tick this off, then not the top one value will be affected. Instead, the top 1% of the values are affected. For example, this means if you have a range of 80 cells and the top 15% should be shown, 12 values are affected, if you don't have any duplicates. Now only the formatting has to be done, so format and fill, and we select this nicely blue color in the middle. We confirm our styling and apply the style. Okay, we deselect the range, and we see once again we did the right things to achieve the right result. Here with the distribution of values, it seems we once again have to use a different approach. Let us start as normal with selecting the range, opening the Rules Manager and creating a new rule. We have the solution right in front of us with format all cells based on their values. As format style, we stay tuned with 2-color scale. But we want that the lowest value should be yellow and the highest value should be red. All we have to do is clicking on the arrow beside color and choose yellow. And at the maximum we choose red. Just confirm what we did. Okay. Okay. And it's perfectly right. Let's have a short look back to the rule. So we select this, conditional formatting, manage rule, and double click. We selected as minimum and maximum type, lowest value and highest value. This means that the coloring will be relative to the boundaries. If we add 1000 to all values, the coloring will be exact the same. It's relative to the highest and lowest value. If we want to have defined points for the lower and upper bound, we have to alter lowest value to number and set the number to the number we want to have. For example, 1000, and with highest value we say number to for 5000. Click OK, apply, OK. We have a fixed style. This ends the color grading example, and we continue to the next sample. This one is more a recap of known things than new knowledge. We want to highlight the top 20% of the selected range. As usual, I select a range from B9 to M9, then conditional formatting, and no. This time I choose new rule as a little shortcut. You may ask why I did the long way until now. The answer is very simple. In the Rules Manager, I see if another rule is currently applied to the area I selected. Do you remember how to proceed? I will give you a little head start to find the solution. So let's continue. We select Format only top or bottom ranked values and top 20, and we tick off % of the selected range. Nothing new. In the color selection, we set the background color to, let's say, 255, 199 and 206. Okay. And the font color to a predefined red. Okay. Okay. And we are done. To find the 3 months with the lowest value should now not be of great difficulty. Once again, a little recap. Selecting the target area, conditional formatting, new rule, format only top or bottom ranked values, then the bottom ones, and 3 of them. Format in a bold font and with a predefined green value. So hitting a bunch of OKs, okay. So fast is the formatting done. After these easy 2 examples, we head to a more complex one. The top value should be drawn with a red background and a black font. The second and third one should be drawn with an orange background and a white font. The fourth and fifth element should be drawn with an yellow background and a black font. First, we select the range we want to format. So far, nothing new. Conditional formatting and manage rules. But now, what should we do? You might remember that I said at a previous point that the defined rules are applied from the first defined to the last defined. Maybe this will help us. So at first we will color the top 5, then the top 3, and then the top 1. Theoretically, this should work. So let's see if I'm right on the track. So, new rule, format only top or bottom ranked ones, and top 5 with a fill yellow background. Okay, apply. We see the top 5 elements are colored. Okay. Then we color the top 3 elements. So, new rule, top or bottom, 3, format. Let's take this one, and font color is white. Okay, okay, apply. Yes, it seems correct that the top 3 ones are colored. At last, the top one. So, new rule, top or bottom, top, and only 1. Format, fill, red, okay, okay, apply, and okay, and it seems correct. The top one is colored, the second and third, the fourth and the fifth, but oops. Let's have a look at the January value. We have a white font and not a black font. Well, that's strange. So let's get back to the formatting. To solve this problem, we have to know that if rules conflict, the higher ranked one will be applied. Let's walk through the steps for the top value through the rules. With the top one, the background is colored red and the font is colored black. Not exactly. Let's have a look at the font color. Double click. For it seems black font, but if you go to Format and Font, you see the font color is automatic. So it isn't black, it is automatically selected and therefore not applied. But we leave it as it is. Cancel, cancel. The next line, top 3, also affects the top result. As the background is already painted, it won't be painted again. But because the font color is now defined white and was not previously altered, it is changed to white. In the line top 5, font and fill color all already changed. The background with the first rule and the font color with the second rule, and therefore no change is done. So how can we solve our problem? And we do not want to change the font color. Let's have a look at these checkboxes. Stop if true. If I tick this checkbox, if this rule is applied, no further rule will be evaluated. So if the top 1 rule is used, then the formatting is immediately stopped. Top 3 and top 5 will never be evaluated. So let's apply this and okay. So we have mastered the first little tricky example. On this sheet we will create data bars to show temperatures in the test area in different ways. The start is already known, marking and creating a new rule. So marking, conditional formatting, manage rules and a new rule. We select format all cells based on their values and change the format style to data bar. Here we stay with automatic for the minimum and maximum value, and the bar appearance should be gradient fill. And the color, more colors, custom, we choose a 255, 182 and 40. Okay. The border, we set also solid border, but not black. We also choose here the color 255, 182 and 40. Okay. To color the negative values in red, we hit the negative value and axis button. Here we can define the fill and border color for the negative values. If we do not want other colors for the negative values, we can choose here to use the same ones as for the positive bar. The red fill color is, we set it to the darker one, and we choose a border color which is also the darker red. As last option, we check that the 0 point is set automatically and the 0 axis color is fine with black. We accept the changes with OK, OK, apply and OK, and we see our data bar is styled perfectly. The second example is nearly the same. The main difference is that the 0 point is in the middle of the cell. Do you remember where we can set this? So let's create the rule. Select Conditional Formatting, Manage Rules and New Rule. Format cells, OK. Now data bars. Now we choose a solid fill and change the color to, well, 0, 176 and 80. OK. No border color, just fine. And now heading to the negative values and axis. Here we change to the darker red. There's no border color, and here we set the 0 point to the cell midpoint. OK, OK, and once again OK. We see a fine and correct result. You see that the color bars are also not that hard to understand. In the third example, we revert the negative values so that they head into the same direction as the positive values. The usual standard beginnings procedure, selecting, conditional formatting, manage rules, new rule. Now data bar, and we have a gradient fill, and as color we choose once again the 0, 176 and 80. OK. Border color, yes, we have a solid border which is black. And to the negative values we have fill color will be, well, we take this brown and a border color in the same brown type, and as last we choose none. Show negative value bars in the same direction as positive. OKing, OKing, and once more OKing. We see, wait a moment. Where is the bar for January, the first value? Let's have a look at our rule. So, once conditional formatting, manage rule, double click. We selected as minimum type automatic. And that's the reason that the lowest value is not drawn. To draw a little stub, we set the minimum value to, let's say, 15. So number and minus 15. OKing and applying. Just move it out of sight. You see we have a little stub. The lower the negative value is, the greater the bar will be. So let's test it. We set the number to minus 25. Let's take minus 60. Whoops, minus 60 I said. And OK. And apply. And you see, the lower the value, the higher the bar will be. But the difference between lowest and highest value will be smaller. So you can emphasize differences or make them looking not so great. This ends the third example. As task for the last graph on this sheet, we want that the lower bound is automatically 5 lower than the lowest value and the upper bound 5 higher than the highest value. We will do this that the bars won't touch the cell boundaries. Additionally, the bars should be reverted and the values omitted. A simple task, really. We start as in the last millions examples, selecting and conditional formatting, manage rules, new rule. Then format all cells based on the values and data bar. The fill is solid with this color. We have solid black border and let's head to the negative axis. Fill color is this 10, border color is also this 10, automatic, okay. To revert the drawing, we have to select right to left, and to omit the values we have to check this box. Okay, apply, and nearly the correct result. The cell padding is missing, so back to the rule, double click. We will change the minimum and maximum type to formula. And we want that the lower bound is 5 less than the lowest value. We only have to find the lowest value and to subtract 5 from that value. We do this by the formula equals minimum from these values, closing bracket, and minus 5. The maximum is the opposing, equals maximum from this range, closing bracket, plus 5. Then OK, OK, and you see perfectly right. With changing the value 5, let's say from conditional formatting, manage rules, double click here to say 15, oops, to 15, no, plus 15, so OK and OK. We can change the cell padding. That's all for data bars. On this example sheet, we have a closer look on the icons. In the first example, we want to have a green dot when the value in the cell is 60 or above, yellow when below 60 and greater and equal 50, and below 50 we show a red dot. The start here is already well known. Select, conditional formatting, manage rules, new rule. Now we choose as format style icon sets. And in the drop-down box named icon style, the red, yellow and green lights. As you see, there are many styles predefined. You can alter the styles but please keep in mind that no style may have more than 5 icons. We stick with the 3 symbols, and as first step we ensure that as type number is selected and not %. If you enter the ranges and set afterwards to number, well, you only do this once, because then the values are reset to 0 and you have to enter the numbers again. So just show you 50% changing to number and it is reset. So first set the type and then enter the values. We set the first comparison value here to 60 and the second one to 50. Now OK and apply, and we see that we did it as expected and wanted. Now we have as task to use only 2 icons. So we start as always selecting conditional formatting, manage rules and new rule. Format style to icon sets, and we choose the one with the cross, the exclamation mark and the check, even if these are 3 symbols. We change once again to number and number. Because we only want 2 icons, we set the third one to no cell icon and change the exclamation mark to the crossed one. As last step, we set the comparison value in the first row to 50. The second row stays at 0. Finishing and applying OK, OK, and you see, once again, the correct result. This leaves the third example. But this is nearly the same as the one we finished yet, only the values are not shown. This, dear viewer, I leave to you to find out how this is done. It's not hard to find out. We are at the third last example. In the first part, we want to highlight the cities that were only visited once. So we select the cities from G4 to G14, conditional formatting, new rule, and we choose format only unique or duplicate values. With format all, we select unique, and this last point, the formatting of the cell with a white font and a bright red background color. OK, OK, and we see that's correct. In the second part, we want to highlight the multiple visited cities. We select the cells from H4 to H14, conditional formatting, new rule, format unique or duplicate values, duplicate, OK, that fits, format, and we choose this blue background color and say OK, OK, and it seems to work perfect. Now let's test our formatting with, say, Linz. OK, Linz isn't anymore visited only once. Klagenfurt is now visited only once. And we say, well, Eisenstadt. And perfect. This brings us to our second last example. Here we have the results of an experiment and want to highlight the best result of each proband. This time we only select the data row for the first person, the cells I5 to M5, and we create a new rule. This time we create a formula that determines which cell to format. We choose the last entry in the rules type list. How this formatting works is pretty easy. We define a formula that if evaluated true, then the cell is formatted. We have to compare the first value of the selected cells with the maximum of the range of the cells. So I'll shift this to the side. So the formula reads equals, for starting, an Excel formula as already known, and now the comparison I5. It is important that the cell I5 is not fixed, because internally this formula is copied to each cell in the selected area. Then equals max and this range. Additionally, the range row must not be fixed, so that we can copy later the complete formatting of the row down to the other probands. So we change the range that only the columns are fixed. This is achieved by pressing F4 twice, the first time and the second time. Now closing the bracket. The fill color is a simple red color, so we choose Format, Red, OK, and OK. 56 is shown in red. That's correct. We see that only the first row is formatted, so we use the Format Painter with the cells still selected. Click on Format Painter and paste the format to the other cells. You see that a better knowledge of fixed cells in Excel sometimes comes in handy. And finally, after a lot of examples, it is time for our last task. And once again, we'll use a known formula, and once again, we will use the fixed or not fixed cells for the solution. We want to highlight the person with the highest result of all probands. So the easiest way is to compare the maximum value of each person with the overall maximum. And depending on that result, painting the person's name. We select now the first proband in cell H5, which is Mr. or Mrs. Smith, and create a new rule with a known formula. So conditional formatting, new rule, use a formula to determine. And starting with an equal sign. And then we find the maximum of that person's points with max and choosing the points. And once again, the row must not be fixed. So I hit F4 and F4. Then closing bracket. Now we have the person's maximum, and we want it to compare with the overall maximum. We compare it with maximum of, and now we select the whole range. It's important that row and column is fixed, because if we copy down the formatting from Smith to the other probands, the overall area must not change. So closing bracket, format, bold font and bright red. Okay, okay, oops, strange. Nothing changed. Of course, Smith has not the highest point value, it's Williams. And with a selected cell, H5, we choose Format Painter and copy the formatting down to the other cells, and we see Williams is painted in red. And for the last time we create a new rule to highlight the maximum points. We select the whole range, and this one is very easy. I think you know how it's done. Conditional formatting, new rule, and then top, one, format and red font, okay, and okay. And you see Williams with 113 points. Now let's change, say, Jones to 117 and see what happens. Perfect. Jones is the one with the highest ranking. This was the last example I showed to you. Of course, I didn't explain all the bits and pieces, but now you have a base where you can start off and use conditional formatting in your own work. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Bye. See you next time.